Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to continue our pulls toward Runmei for our Super Break team, as well as fight the final boss of the Pinakoni storyline. As you can see, we just picked up Memories of the Past, which is one of the best light cones we could have gotten. It gives break effect as well as energy regeneration, so it's one of the best light cones for both HMC as well as Runmei. And just in case you guys aren't aware, when I refer to someone as HMC or FMC or even, I guess we probably won't talk about them, but if I ever was to say like PMC or physical MC, it refers to the different paths that the main character can take. So we're going to be mainly using the Harmony, which is the H in HMC, main character. And the reason for that is he's the only character currently in the game that enables Super Break, which is kind of what makes the whole break team work. And since one of our teams is going to be the break core of Gallagher, HMC, and Runmei, it's a very pivotal point in the team, as well as due to the fact it's the main character, we get all the Eidolons for free. So it's an E6 character with some pretty strong Eidolons, honestly. The other main thing you may notice from these pulls is we're getting quite a few Eidolons for both Gallagher and Zhu Yi, which is another great pickup for our strategy with our break team. Gallagher's Eidolons are great. At E2, he gets a Dispel, and at E6, he gets increased break effect as well as weakness break efficiency, which means we will be breaking the toughness bars faster, which means we'll be able to do super break damage faster, as well as Runmei's delayed wake up time will happen, allowing us to get even more attacks in during the super break window for tons of damage. So Gallagher's E6 is great, pretty much works with everything you want to do on the break team. Zhu Yi also gets break effect, I believe, on her E4, and her E6 just makes it so her follow-up attack happens more often. So they're both great Eidolons, and just really solid units for the break team. So those are great pickups. The Misha, not as great. You can use them if you really need ice element, but all in all, I highly doubt we'll be using the Misha at all. Same with this blue sky light cone. You can use it. If we ended up taking Aeon off of Clara and we had nothing else to use, we might use it, but we're in a pretty desperate world if we do that. And we finally are to our first 5-star on the banner. And who is it going to be? That's right, we failed the 50-50. It's unlucky. We still have plenty of pulls, plenty of time, so we'll probably still be able to get Runmei before the banner ends. And honestly, there's worse picks than Himiko. Himiko has a decent amount of value these days. She is pretty solid in Pure Fiction just because of the way Pure Fiction works, especially if you pair her with someone like Herta. You can really chain reaction for a lot of damage and a lot of good score in Pure Fiction. So she definitely has some uses there, as well as the fact that Firefly's banner recently happened. They've been pushing the fire element quite a bit, which just gives her more value. You can even run her in the Super Break team as, honestly, for some of the MLC content currently, one of the better units to pick. So we will probably end up gearing her, and as you can see here, I actually did level her up for the final fight of Pinakoni, just because, again, the main mechanic here is just breaking the toughness bars for a big shield. And she's great at breaking. She has the fire weakness, which is what we needed here. As you can see, we're running 3 fire units, and she just gets a lot of break. So she ended up being a great unit here. Clara saw no value in this fight really, other than just kind of poke damage when she countered. So I decided to level up Himiko, go with Himiko. We're probably going to use her anyway. It just seemed like a good time to do that and make this fight quite a bit easier. And with the Pinakoni story finally being done, in the next episode we'll be able to jump into MLC Pure Fiction and Shadows, which is pretty exciting. We'll be able to kind of see where our units stack up and what we need to improve on them. The obvious ones are the traces, which I've definitely been a little stingy on leveling. I don't think there's a single person above level 3 on any trace, as well as the Echo of War materials. I've barely put any investment into those for our units as well, just because I don't want to invest in anyone we might not end up using, because with it being a challenge, trying to do it relatively quickly and such, any wasted resources is just extra bad. The longer course you play the game, obviously you feel that wasted investment less and less, but if I waste resources now, you know, in 1 week when I'm struggling to gear up the character that's actually good and I actually want to use, it's going to be very noticeable. So I really tried not to put any investment I haven't had to in any character. Like, I think Asta, unless I recently leveled it up for this fight, was at level 1 traces for the entire story. Not that that's a big deal. The story is generally fairly easy. but traces obviously make things go faster. Or if you're struggling, just leveling up traces to 2 or 3 is not that big a deal. It is a really small amount of resources in the long run, so don't feel bad about doing that. I was just being a little bit stingy, and I knew I could clear it with this team, so it wasn't something I really wanted to do. I've also rushed the story just to kind of get to the end game, because that's where the real challenge is. So I have all of the simulated universe to do, all of the side quests and the events still. So we have tons of Jades. We'll be able to get through in May. We'll probably not go for her light cone just because the banner ends, I think at the time of recording this, in 1 day, and we don't even have the Rune May yet, so the odds of us getting enough Jades to get her and the light cone is just very small. The light cone's good. Her E1 is also very good. I don't know which one I would recommend, one or the other. I think they're both great options. I might recommend the light cone if you're in a situation similar to this new account, just because we don't have 2 memories of the past yet, so it'd be an easy way to have a light cone for HMC as well as Rune May, but her E1 is also fantastic. With that being said, before we even jump into MLC or Pure Fiction or Shadows, I think the 3 obvious choices for us to start investing in, getting relics for, and looking at light cones would be our Super Break core of Gallagher, Rune May, and HMC. We know we're going to use these units no matter who we pull. These are going to be one of our teams. They're just really strong, really versatile, especially Rune May. Even if we decided we didn't want to run a break team because, let's say, the boss is toughness locked or something, Rune May is almost always going to be on our teams. She is incredibly versatile, she's incredibly good, and with being a new account, we just don't have that many options. There's not going to be a unit on our team that is going to give better support than her. She's just that good. She is probably the best support unit in the entire game, in my opinion. She just offers so much. She's a little bit worse in single DPS teams, but even then she can still offer amazing value. The only thing she lacks is advanced forward mechanics like that Sparkle and Bronya have, but due to the fact that when you break an enemy, she kind of delays them, waking up or getting their toughness bar back and attacking, it's a pseudo advanced forward, so she's just incredible. So those are the 3 units we'll probably be looking to invest in immediately, and then we'll figure out what DPS we want to run on the break team, and then the real challenge will be the second team. For Pure Fiction, it's not going to be too bad. We'll probably look at doing Herta and Himiko in some variation, maybe throw Clara in the team and run out like a follow-up team if we can manage to make that work. I think the real struggle will just come when we get to MLC and Shadows, just because generally you run a dual DPS or a hyper carry setup for that game mode, versus in Pure Fiction you run a lot of trash clearing. You can run less sustain just because in general you take a lot less damage in that mode. But when it comes to Shadows and MLC, you run pretty standardized comps, and we just don't have it. Obviously we need to run a sustainer, which takes one of our 4 slots instantly, and then we don't have enough units to make a dual DPS team really work, so that leaves us with a hyper carry style, which means we run something like a Ting Young and Asta, and then our hyper carry. Ideally we get like a Pella, and then we can run Ting Young and Pella. We get some defense shred, Ting Young buffs, and then we run our hyper carry unit. Right now our option for that would either be Clara or Himiko, if we're not running Himiko in the Super Break team, which honestly isn't that great. I think it would probably be more likely to run Clara as our hyper carry and just hope she gets hit a lot, or that they're weak to physical. But it's still not ideal, especially we still lack that Pella. We really hope in the polls getting Rune May we hit a Pella. The defense shred is one of the best things we can get. When it comes to our sustains, we're even more limited actually than our supporting units. Our options right now are pretty much Natasha, Lynx, and Gallagher. Gallagher will obviously fit on the Super Break team and is also actually really, really good. For the second team, we're probably going to end up running Lynx. Natasha just doesn't cut it. On my account a year ago I ran Natasha, but I also pulled on Zila's banner, so I had E6 Natasha, and Lynx wasn't even out for quite a while, so my Natasha was very geared by the time she came out, so I never made the transition. But I know Lynx is very good, especially with some Eidolons. She does fall short nowadays to the top picks, especially Gallagher being the 4-star equivalent. But other than that, I think, Lynx is pretty solid. If we get some Eidolons for her at some point, that will make her even better. Obviously, I think at E6 she's actually pretty comparable with like standard banner characters of like Japard and Bailu. Situationally better than Bailu. Bailu's raw output is actually really high. It's just she really struggles due to the lack of a dispel. But I think that's where we're at. Our teams are probably likely to be something along the lines of like Clara Hyper Carry and Super Break on the other side unless something changes. There is a world where we could try to pull Jade who's follow-up based and maybe run like a QQ or something. Some kind of mono quantum team there. The issue is we don't have Silverwolf, so I don't know if we can make that work. We could look into it. It really depends on how Jade ends up performing. I have a feeling she's not going to be all too great at release, but later down the line when more units come out, she's going to be really, really strong. We'll have to wait and see. The other thing we have to remember is like matching elements, but that'll come later. Like we might end up having to like level Serval for lightning damage and stuff like that. But we won't know until we get into MOC in the next episode and really push it and just kind of see where our cap is right now and what we need to do to improve. So next episode is going to be hopefully really exciting. The strategy is going to come into play and we're going to actually start dying, which I know it's weird to be excited about that, but the content in the story is just so easy that all I want to do is just rush through it as fast as possible and get to the real challenge, the real strategy, and actually start thinking about builds and comps and just the challenge in general. I'm pretty excited. There's a lot of free units to get as well. Unlocking Shadows gives you the Zhuyi copy. Unlocking Pure Fiction gives you the links. And it's just more Jades. With the final boss kind of wrapping up here, I just wanted to take a moment and kind of talk to you guys and just out of curiosity, ask if there's any other content you're interested in seeing. Obviously, I plan on doing this challenge run. I'll probably release like one video a week. I think will be probably a good pace, maybe two some weeks, depending on how exciting it is or what I'm trying to do. Other than that, I plan on making a tier list once Jade comes out, kind of giving my thoughts on the meta, where people rank, things like that. And then I've also considered maybe doing build guides for units. Don't know how interesting that is though. There's so many other content creators that do that. But if you guys are interested in that or anything else, feel free to let me know. I greatly appreciate any feedback or what you guys would like to see in this series. Or if you guys want any more tutorial information, thought process, things like that as I go through the challenge. With that, the boss is dead. We ended up killing it with the train for style points. And we're going to end this episode with some pulls, trying to get our Rune Mei. As you can see, throughout the story of Pinaconi, we built up quite a few pulls. We leveled up quite a bit. So we have a good amount of pulls here to do toward our Rune Mei, as well as some standard banner pulls. We got a trend. It's an okay light cone. Really, you only see it used on Japard for the debuff when running like an Acheron team. But we might use it for something if we're desperate. Luca also could be used for our break team. Probably won't. There's better options. I'd rather personally run Shishang over Luca for the break team. Or Zhuyi is the super obvious choice. And we got 2 Gallagher Eidolons, which is huge. We're pretty close to E6 now, I believe. I think that's E4, maybe E5 even. So we're very close to that. We should hit that before we get our Rune Mei. It's very exciting, very good, honestly. But yeah, last few polls here. Just wanted to thank you guys for watching. Like I said, in the next episode, we're going to be diving into the end game, the hard content, and it's going to be really exciting. And yeah, thanks for watching.